today's guest is someone whose story is going to hit different. And I say that because she didn't just have a stable job. She had a career that people dreamed about. Amanda Aguilar is a former Emmy award-winning TV news reporter and anchor. She spent a decade in journalism and got her master's degree in journalism and public affairs from American University. She worked at ABC 30 Action News in Fresno and won a Southeast Emmy Award for Best Daytime Evening Newscast, and then took a six-figure communication job to give herself more runway to build her business on the side. And there was a pivotal point where she just couldn't stay anymore because her body, her mental health, her gut were all saying the same thing, that this isn't it. She's now a TEDx speaker, a self-love and empowerment coach, and the host of her own podcast, Embrace Her Evolution. She helps women navigate what she calls the messy middle and the season where things look fine on paper, but internally you know something is shifting. And we are going to dive right into that messy middle today. Amanda, welcome to Unclocked and Unbothered. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to speak more with you.
Yes, it's so wonderful getting to kind of talk and meet somebody that has such an interesting background and kind of dive into why things happen, what shifted for you and what life looks like now. So, let's dive right in. I want to start before the shift here because I think that's the thing that makes your story so specific is that you weren't just leaving a job, you were leaving an identity that people could see and watch. And what did a decade in TV news actually feel like from the inside?
When I first got into TV news, I mean, this was something I had been dreaming about since high school. I wouldn't say, I've met a lot of reporters in the industry that are like, oh, I have known I've wanted to be on TV since I was little. They have the home videos of them doing the news. But for me, I found my spark a little later, which was high school. Dream job. And when I got into the industry, I was just like, wow. And I mean, I want to say I was in my 20s and I just had so much drive and I was very like, oh, work overtime? Yes. Like breaking news? Yes. Go to some breaking news at 3 a.m.? Yes. Like I was just very energized by the industry. And, I could never say I regret it. Like I loved my time in news. I was able to tell amazing stories, make a difference in the community I was reporting in. I met amazing people and interviewed a lot of cool people, did a lot of fun stories. I went to go skydiving for a story. Like it was just such a fun time, a fun chapter, a stressful chapter too. I think what started happening was I was getting older, and I was also just getting to know myself more. Went through my own healing journey, started my healing journey, started with therapy, started, hiring a coach, a life coach. And that was the moment when I really started learning more about myself and what was important to me and what I valued and what I want from life. And I think I also just started being honest with myself, of like, okay, I'm getting older. I see my parents getting older. Do I want to keep missing Christmas and Thanksgiving? I was always working on holidays. Do I want to miss my friends' weddings and all these different milestones? And I had to be honest with myself of like, I really do value time with loved ones. I also just valued like my own time and being in news, you're on call 24/7, and you are representing the station you work for 24/7, even when you're not on air. You're going to the grocery store, whatever you're doing outside of work, you are still that public figure. And I liked it. I'm a Leo rising, so I love attention. I like it. And so it was cool, but then it was also just like I felt like I couldn't be myself. I felt like I had to compartmentalize a lot. Because I always believed that I was not the typical news reporter and news anchor. I think there's this view, or maybe it's just my view, that I always saw the typical news reporter anchor as like very polished, very professional, not loud and just like very quirky and and I think why actually I believe that is because when I first started in news, I was a baby reporter, and I remember a viewer emailed the station, and it was right after I had anchored a show, and they said, Amanda Aguilar needs to grow up. She's not mature
Mm-hmm.
enough to be an anchor. And
Mm-hmm.
that really hit me hard because I have always had very childlike energy, I guess you can say, because I'm just a fun person. I'm very energetic. And so I think that comment actually shaped how I viewed how I should be a reporter and what viewers like from the people that they watch on TV. And so I just knew like that wasn't me. And it was hard because I felt like I kind of had to dim myself down. I mean, I will say, as I started getting a little older, having more experience, I started showing more of my personality on air. And I will say that I credit being authentic on air as to connecting with a lot of viewers and the community. People would reach out like, I love how real you are on air, and like, oh my gosh, you're just so funny. Like, I love how you don't take yourself that seriously. And so I will say I was authentic on air, but to an extent. Like, there is
Mm-hmm.
always like a place where I'm like, okay, let's not take it too far, Amanda. But I think it just really got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be reporter Amanda and then off air Amanda. I just want to be Amanda. And I think that's why I and many reporters who have left the news industry is something that is very known, and reporters tell other people looking to get out of the industry, like, hey, you're going to go through a huge identity shift. You are going to like question who the hell you are because we put our whole life into this career and we make it our whole identity that when you leave, it's like, okay, who am I without the microphone? Who am I without the camera in front of me? Who am I without that title? And I'm glad that I started getting to know myself outside of being a reporter before I left because I don't think I had that drastic of like an identity crisis as other reporters do when they leave the industry.
Wow. Like, especially going into it so young and so like vivacious and ambitious about wanting to, you know, a lot of that excitement and that authenticity came off at the beginning. And I think those emails and things that would try to kind of dim your light to make you fit like this one look on a news reporter, and then you
Yeah.
slowly kind of morphed into it. But as you got older, you start to realize, who are you? Like, where did that light go? Just to kind of fit in. And you can kind of see that transpire in so many different careers. So it's so interesting that that even happens on a news channel. Some people can only like really dream of like what that actually means, but for you to live it, you can still see like, I can still resonate with this person, is that they had to dim their light to fit in. Really, that's the message there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because well, news has changed so much honestly since I left, and I left 2 years ago. But I remember, I think this was probably, I don't know, 2021, where a lot of news reporters started really getting into TikTok and, showing a little more personality, doing the trends on TikTok. And that was like a no-no in the industry. Like
Oh.
leadership stations were not about TikTok because they were like, no, like how are people going to trust you if you're out here doing dances on TikTok? And that's a big thing with reporters, and especially now where a lot of people, there is a distrust in the media. And so a lot of leadership would see
Mm.
dancing as very unprofessional and like you're gonna kill your credibility, you're gonna kill our station's credibility, like no TikToks. It was just not a thing. And now you see stations starting to lean into TikTok and social media more, and some of them are even asking, their talent to be on social media and show more personality because they realize oh, our audience actually connects with
Hmm.
authenticity. They want to see the person outside of the camera, off air. And so it's nice to see that because I mean, I got in trouble for doing TikToks, back when I was
Wow.
in news. And so it's
Hmm.
nice to see that, talent is allowed to do that. But I mean, it's a huge identity thing and just the way you're perceived is like a
Yes.
huge thing in news. So it was definitely a an interesting career for sure, and it's one that I think a lot of people have a lot of misunderstandings about. A lot of people think it's very
Hmm.
glamorous,
Hmm.
and I feel like 20% of it is glamorous. 80% is a lot of stress and a lot of hard work.
Yeah, and I think because you're in that spotlight, that camera never really turns off because you can
No.
be in a grocery store and you still have to, you can't clock out of that job either. You have to maintain this professionalism. You can't really, you have to be polished in your social media. And we can see that as the audience is slowly shifting into this social media driven world. And that's mostly where like Gen Z and get their news, right? But the broadcasting networks are noticing this shift as well. It's just a bit slower. So you were kind of ahead of your time and you wanted to
Yes.
like show that authenticity, right?
Yes. Yeah. I've always been a very vulnerable person. I have never had any issue sharing my life, sharing who I am, especially on a different platform. But like it has been interesting to see because sometimes I'll go through my own social media and like I'll just kind of scroll and I'm like, oh my gosh, like girl, I had a filter on. Like I was filtering myself so much. And, as I get to my more recent posts, I'm like, there's Amanda. Like there's Amanda without the filter. And so, I mean, it took a lot of work, but
Yeah.
and I'm still improving, but it's been nice to see my identity shift into someone that I always tell people like this is my favorite version of myself right now. So,
That's beautiful because the more you become authentic to your true self, the more the community will reflect that. And you'll get those positive people. You'll get your friends. You'll get those community people that are encouraging more of that, which will then
mhm.
transpire you to make more of that authentic self show up, right? Now, you mentioned
Yes.
that your deeper work you started years before you left, like after a painful breakup that opened up your eyes to the fact that there might be more of you. What did that season do for you while you were still inside that career?
Oh, so I started doing the deep healing work after a breakup. Really, really, I don't even want to say it was a relationship. It was like a situationship. And I think it was like really the straw that broke the camel's back because I had gone through many of these kind of breakups after situationships. And I saw this pattern of myself, pattern losing myself all the time and entering these horrible depressive episodes. And this pattern of comparing myself, just not understanding my worth, being so hard on myself. And that last situationship, I just remember being like, I cannot continue feeling like this. Like, there is no way I can continue constantly asking myself, why am I not good enough? And, I'd hear my friends like, you're the whole package, Amanda. And I'd be like, I am, but I didn't feel it inside. I like truly did not believe it. I got to a point where I was just like, something's got to change. I had a therapist and I also signed up with a self-love coach. That truly was the game changer. It was actually my therapist at first that mentioned, you're struggling with your self-worth and you don't have a lot of self-worth and I don't think you love yourself. And then to me, I was like, what do you mean? Like I'm literally on TV. It takes love and confidence to show up on TV every day. And I realized that my confidence was so surface level, and it was truly fueled by external validation. And when you're in news, you get that external validation. My confidence was fueled just by external people and external things. I truly didn't have confidence in myself. And so once my therapist brought that to light. So signed up with a self-love coach, and there were just so many things I had to take accountability for that I was like, okay, you don't have boundaries. I didn't even know what boundaries meant.
Mm-hmm.
Like she
Mm-hmm.
started explaining what that was, and I'm like, never heard of her. What are boundaries? And it was just a lot of becoming aware of my unhelpful patterns and my unhelpful thoughts that honestly put me in situations that hurt me. And that was a big kind of aha moment for me, was realizing, oh, I'm the drama. Like there's a reason why I kept finding myself in these situations where I was questioning my worth. It was just like, okay, I'm aware, I'm taking accountability. How do we change it? And
Yeah.
so my self-love coach did a lot to support me through that journey.
Wow. I think that definitely like that self or that external validation hit because when we're younger, yeah, that's really all we can get it from. And I think that typically stems from childhood too, like, wanting to be the high achiever or approval from our parents and not
Yep.
necessarily understanding our own boundaries, but just to feel loved. That's typically like that's how I felt, and that's where a lot of people that I've kind of interviewed, it stems from that.
It's interesting because like something that I through my healing journey have realized is that with my parents, I always felt like I had to work and earn someone's love and affection. And so I think with news, like I did that. And with guys, I was always trying to earn the
Yes.
affection and also just like not realizing that I put so much I relied on it too much and I didn't give myself what I needed. I remember my therapist one time. I had was venting to her, talk therapy, and I was telling her like the guy that hurt me. I was like he never called me beautiful and he never expressed his affection to me. And she was like, Amanda, when's the last time you told yourself you're beautiful? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, why don't you? And I'm like, well, I want someone else to tell me. And she was like, well, why don't you? You can give yourself that. And I was like, you're on to something, lady. Like, you're on to something.
Not
And
only
yeah,
that, but it's like truly feeling it too. Like you can say like, "Oh yeah, I told myself today in the mirror." But then if you're not doing that internal work to understand the depth of that, that can also
hmm
like not change things too. So going on that journey and understanding how to actually validate yourself and not self-abandon. Yeah. So I think definitely like the breakups or like that constant pattern really woke you up or wanted you kind of to pivot and be like, I don't want this for myself anymore. I'm going to start choosing myself and not abandon myself anymore. Because that kind of leads to resentment of yourself or just
Yep.
fatigue. I think you maybe started feeling that in your career, in the relationships, and you wanted more out of life. And there's something super interesting about your path because you knew you wanted to leave news. So you took this six-figure communication job strategically and you were giving yourself time and that financial stability to build on the side. What did that double life look like?
Oh yeah. So, news was actually I thought I was gonna stay in it for a while. Like I thought it was gonna be the retirement, but it was again being honest with myself and choosing myself and realizing, okay, this doesn't align with me anymore. As much as I love it and as much as I poured a lot of my heart into it, it just doesn't feel good anymore. So I ended up leaving and I was like, okay, I want my business. Like I love what I do as a self-love and empowerment coach. Like that I'm like, that's the long-term goal. But I feel like I also didn't have a lot of courage just yet to be like, I'm gonna go full time into entrepreneurship. Like many of my friends, I've seen them leave corporate and just go full time. And I was like, okay, let me get my first job outside of news. And I was very like, I want six figures because in news, you don't get paid. I think a lot of people have that misunderstanding that we get paid a lot and we don't. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this six-figure marketing job. In my head, I was like, I think like 2 or 3 years. Two, I was like really aiming for two. And I was like, and then you'll go full time into your business. And I think the first, I don't know, I think like the first 8 months were really great because It was hybrid. I only went in to the office maybe once a week. And I just had time to pour into my business. Things changed at my work, management changed. Working from home became no longer a thing, going into the office. And from like where I live to SF, that's like an hour and 15 commute. Too much. It's just
Mm-hmm.
exhausting. And I'm really proud of myself that it took a shorter amount of time to act on what my body was telling me. And I actually ended up taking medical leave. And the medical leave was the best decision I ever made for myself. And I'm really happy for that because that truly led me into finally leaving the 9 to 5 life.
Yeah, I want to talk more about this medical leave in a second, but right before you talked about the body, and the body never actually lies. So when you were in your when your news broadcasting job, you felt that, but you were like, no, I need to push ahead. I need to earn this love. I need to continue to do this. I need to ignore myself. But then when you went to this other job and that same feeling came back, you started to realize, oh, like your body's telling you something that you can't ignore anymore. It's the signs, and you're building your business, but then you're feeling so drained from your job that you can't pour that love into yourself. So that was just another nudge. I think this medical leave came in because I think that's the moment everything was supposed to shift. It wasn't a dramatic resignation, it wasn't a breakdown, just silence. And what you heard in that silence, what happened?
Um, So when I talk about like the body talking, like I truly believe your body talks to you. And I wish more people like really understand that and listen to it because it's so true. Because when your body talks to you, like you will find out what you need. And so for me, in news, it was just like exhaustion, crying every day. And then, but again, I tried to push through. And then for this job, it was the exhaustion, it was the crying, it was the migraines, I have an inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, the flare-ups. And my flare-ups are caused by stress. So I'm like, okay, like my body is literally talking to me, not just like mentally and emotionally, but physically. It's like, girl, you like, we need a break.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I took the medical leave, oh my gosh, it was slowing down was exactly what my body needed. Because then that's when I started realizing I was on leave for, I think, about 3.5 months. But by the first month, I was already feeling so much better. How does one go back to the environment that broke her
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, mentally, and physically? Like how do you do that? Like I was just like asking myself, like, do you really want to go back? Like, is that what you want your life to look like? You have this nice break and then you just go back to feel the same way? And slowing down and like just having moments to pause and think and hear myself, actually like hear myself think without having to think about what I have to do for work or what projects are due, whatever. And that was, every day kind of showed me, yeah,
Just got to
it,
be
it, it wouldn't be okay to go back. You can't go back, girl.
you just got to be present with yourself. That's what it sounds like. And being able to think about something and it be in your reality, and then you take those steps to get those feelings. Like you've wanted to feel calm, so you made your life and allowed yourself to find ways to feel calm and be with your family. And you mentioned how one of your biggest fears was thinking that people were going to think that you were downgrading your life.
Yeah.
And I want to sit with that for a second because that fear is so specific to women in careers with visible or non-visible statuses. What does it feel like to make a decision that you know looks like a step backwards when everybody else is watching, even if it feels like the right thing to do for yourself?
Yeah, this was such a really deep fear, and I struggled with it a lot. When I realized that I really wanted to do full-time entrepreneurship and even just like a part-time job. Like I think what they like the mindless part-time jobs, and then either freelancing. I was like, what are people going to frickin' think? Like, this girl just had it all. And now she wants to go to part-time. Now she wants to be an entrepreneur, which is like very risky. Not a lot of people see their small businesses through. And I had to realize that, like, what may look like a downgrade to other people, to me, by my standards, by my definition of success now, that was what I also had to do, was redefine success. And when I looked at the life I wanted, I was actually like, no, that's a successful life by your standards. Like, if it doesn't look successful to other people, well, I'm not trying to, live a life by their standards. Like, it's my standards and my life. And
Mm-hmm.
so redefining what success means and really getting clear on what does a good life feel like for me, that's when I was able to see that what I want actually isn't a downgrade. Like, I feel like I truly upgraded my life.
It's so true. Like to the outside, they're only looking at the person that they saw on the news. You already had to put on almost like this character or this professionalism that those people didn't even know the authentic version of yourself to know that that was an upgrade, right?
Yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's been very nice too because, that's the beauty of social media is the connection. And, I have a lot of people that follow me when I was a reporter in Kansas or when I reported in Georgia and even Central California. I've gotten a lot of messages from former viewers that would just be like, I love watching your journey. Like, it has been so cool to see how much you've evolved and like you're really in something that you love and you're doing something that you love and you're making a difference. And so it's like, I think sometimes we tell ourselves these stories and we also think that people care a lot about us, but like people actually don't really care that much about you. And so I, was telling myself all these stories. And of course, it was just my inner child trying to protect me from the fear of judgment, the fear of being rejected by people. And so I just told myself these stories, and in reality, none of them were fact.
And people love like that evolutionary journey. They love seeing like being able to follow you through those things. And yeah, a lot of the times like these like negative people or that negative self-talk is actually not necessarily true, or it's a very fleeting thought, and the most grounded thing you can do for yourself is embrace that evolution, right? Just like your
Yes.
podcast name. People love that kind of story because it makes them feel like they can do it as well.
Yes.
And they get to see the real version of you. I think authenticity can really just transpire and show so much depth for that person, that you're not just a surface level person. And I think like you mentioning how your self love was surface, or that external validation was surface, and then you going on this journey of your evolution and diving deeper, you can notice that those things were also reflecting in your life and your like professional journey as well.
I think a lot of my fears and like thoughts that would pop up, I think it's always important to ask yourself, like, is that you? Is that your actual fear or is that someone else's? And
Yeah.
when you ask yourself that, I realized a lot of my fears and thoughts that I would have about myself were actually my mom. And like I could literally hear her voice. Like, and when I hear this voice in my head, I'm like, okay, yeah, that doesn't belong to me. That's actually my mom. And something that why I think I may have that fear of downgrading is because of like disappointing my mom. My mom is, and I think this really hit maybe like a month ago. I was at a family party and a friend of mine, her mom was telling me, oh my God, your mom always talks about you. She loves bragging about you. And I'm like, oh my God. She's
Yeah.
like, she just says so much stuff, amazing things about you. And I like, when I got home, I was like, is she gonna do that now? Like, because I'm not, her daughter, the news reporter. I'm not her daughter making six figures anymore. I'm her daughter with her own business and a part-time job. Like,
Yeah.
is she gonna brag about me now? And that's something that I've had to sit with and also remind myself that like, you know, she never got the opportunity to chase after her dreams. Like she had to stay in draining jobs because she had to survive and provide for the family. And what all I can do is live my life to the fullest and do what makes me happy so I can show her that there is another way to be successful and
Yeah.
to live a good life. And so that was another big thing that I was struggling with.
You have to also truly believe in yourself to be able to prove to them, because in that
Yeah.
like messy middle part, and you go through these ups and downs and you're like, can I do this? Like, can I prove otherwise? Because you really are paving your own path. There's no
Yes.
person in your family that has done that before. So I resonate with that so deeply, because you go from
So true.
university and like going into the specialized career, like my mom did as well, and then wanting to kind of downgrade or rebuild that life or rebuild that structure that no longer necessarily works for me. But there's no one else to be like, yeah, you can do that. Like, that's totally like, you will be successful. There's no guarantee,
Yeah.
right? And that's the
Yeah,
scary
that's so
part.
true. I'm like, I think about it, I'm like, dang, I really think I am the only entrepreneur in my family. Like you said, it's like you have to be the one to believe in
Yes,
yourself before anyone else.
it's true. And you will have your ups and downs with it. Like I just recently talked about that on social media too, where I'm like in this weird pivotal area of like climbing, I like to call it cringe mountain, where you're climbing this mountain and there's not necessarily any benefit from it, but you're too far up the mountain. And like you can only really rely on like your dreams, like, and your self-trust. It's like you took that leap, keep going. Like you
Yeah.
just need to keep going. You had a goal set, you have that visualization. Every day you're working closer to it. It doesn't matter if nobody believes in you. You have to believe in yourself, because when you are the first in your family to do it, you are this trailblazer, but you're meant for that. Like you came down with that purpose. So keep going. Like, see, and like the worst that can happen is you go back on that conventional path. You
Exactly. It
have the
will always
background.
be there. It will
Exactly.
always be there. That's what I like. I have to remind myself, like, I can always go back. I can
Yeah.
always go back.
That's why I always say, like, get your education, especially as women, get your education. Have that as your plan B, almost like your backup. Have that settled so then you can go and flourish and have that unconventional path and live your dreams. Because, like, I think my biggest regret is not, like, would be not trying, would not be
Yes.
going through this. So,
Yeah.
so, okay, so let's talk about what you've built since, because we kind of talked about you being a self love
Yeah.
coach and how you had a self love coach. And because you didn't just leave and disappear, you left and then you got loud and you found yourself. You went to
Yeah.
TEDx, you started your own podcast, a coaching practice. What did the first chapter of building something for yourself actually look like? And take us through that.
Oh gosh, it was I feel like I started really building my business when I was still in news. And it was interesting because I had to do it in a very secretive way, I guess, because, I was still under contract in news. And I don't know if it's like this at all stations, but I know at my station, we couldn't essentially have another form of income. And so I couldn't really launch as a coach and have these like programs. So what I did, what my journey was like, once I was very like, okay, I want to be a coach. And I actually started working with she was self-love coach and then she turned a business coach. It was a lot of just kind of doing what I had always done, was just sharing my story, being very vulnerable on social media. And then the podcast happened. And she was like, let's get a podcast going so people can like get in your world, understand how you think, and like see you as a, leader in the coaching space. Because I still couldn't launch as a coach. So I had my podcast going and, I was speaking at conferences and different events, just getting to making sure people knew who I was, making sure that they connected with me and trusted me. And then it was when I left news, that I finally was able to launch as a self-love and empowerment coach and have my
Mm.
first program. I feel like I launch programs based off like my own journey. And at the time, what I was really passionate about was like career transitions because I had just left news. And so my program was more of a mindset program for career transitions. Like, I told people, I'm not going to help you write a resume. I'm not going to help you with the interviews. I'm going to help you with your mindset. Because I think that was my biggest thing leaving news. I had a coach who helped me with the interviews and all that kind of stuff. But what I was struggling with was all my thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
beliefs about myself. And so that's why I decided to make a program specifically for that. And then I, went on to finally launch my self-love program, a group self-love program. And then I think in this season of my life, what I'm really, really passionate about, and because I've been through it so much, is like that in-between season, that what I call the messy middle, because I feel like I've gone through it a lot, not just with like my career, but even relationships and friendships. Like messy middle is so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically that like time before you get to your next chapter, like you're outgrowing an old chapter and going to a new chapter, and just helping women navigate it and not spiral and overthink, because I think it can be very confusing and it makes you sometimes want to give up that dream you have for your next chapter. And I don't want women to do that. And so, as I'm building my business, that's really what I'm focusing on, is helping women through that messy middle.
Wow, I think you touch on something very beautiful when it comes to the art of the healer, is that when you're in it, that's what you want to reflect or teach. It's like this frequency that these healers vibrate at. Like you were a mindset coach at the beginning, right? Because you were learning about the limiting beliefs and how to switch your
Mhm.
mindset. And that's what you were kind of broadcasting or helping others because you were able to be in that space. And it's so important, like if healers are listening, that you can kind of move within the space. Like as a spirit baby intuitive, that's how I've always started and that's what I was certified in. But we can start to see that like it's not necessarily what I want to be labeled as or stay within that niche,
Mm.
because I'll always love it and it's going to be a part of Harrah's Haven or like that thing that I'm creating or founded. But I don't want to be tied down to something because that's not necessarily me and how I evolve. So that's
Right.
super interesting that you mentioned that. And I love right now how you're navigating women in their messy middle. I love that word because it really just highlights that middle part. Yes, it's messy. You're in this liminal space of not necessarily feeling, just like, for example, not necessarily feeling like a spirit baby intuitive fully, but also shifting into, okay, who am I without that 9 to 5? Who am I
Yeah.
now as starting off a podcast? Who am I now starting a personal brand and finding my voice? So, who is the woman who is she? Who is the messy middle person that comes to you? And what is she carrying that she doesn't necessarily have words for yet?
I feel like I've been getting a lot of women, and when I share my story, I focus a lot on my career because that's just the messy middle that I recently went through. But there's just so many messy middles. So, I have a woman that, and this is what I also like to say, is that I'm not trying to get every woman to quit their job,
Mm-hmm.
or leave a relationship. It's more of, I just want you to listen to yourself. Like, I want to give you this space where you can shut everything up and you can finally listen to yourself to see what you actually want. And maybe, like, for one of a woman I'm working with, she doesn't want to leave her job because, I mean, there are some reasons she needs to stay. And so it looks like, okay, how do we teach you boundaries so you can, protect your mental health at a job that you do have to stay at right now? How do we regulate your nervous system so you can, navigate this essentially like draining job? It's a lot of different things. It's women that just know something is shifting and that they something needs to change. They just don't know what yet. Messy middle will always come up. It's not like a one-time thing. You're always, if you are growing, you're constantly going to be evolving and leaving one chapter to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving the tools so you can navigate this one and then all the other ones that come along.
That is so interesting because you're so right when it comes to evolution, is that you will continue to shed. And the more that you can use these tools to apply to different phases of your life, the more powerful you'll be able to kind of cultivate your reality,
Yeah.
right? And in a lot of like all these examples that you explained, it's really about trusting the body. It comes back to trusting your womb space, trusting these thoughts, kind of going, shedding that ego side and understanding what you and your soul truly are here for and how it is being expressed in the body, right?
Mm.
So now you say that you use CBT, inner child healing, and core value work in your coaching. Why that specific combination?
I do think that a lot of thought work is important. Your thoughts influence your feelings influence your actions obviously get the results. Like I always show my clients the belief circle so they understand why I'm so huge on thoughts. But I'm also like, you can't think your way out of feeling unsafe, which is a lot of going into a new chapter. It's like that safety that is being taken away from you and the certainty, because so many of us, like especially coming from being a child of immigrants, like safety and security are huge. And so I had this like not feeling safe to go into a new chapter. And so safety you can't think your way out of. You have to do the somatics and feel it in your body. um, and so with the inner child healing, a lot of it is like making sure your inner child feels safe. So a lot of it when I work with my clients is, yeah, we're going to look at where this thought started and why you're having this thought and who, first said this thought to you, why you believe it so much. And then we're going to dig deep into like, okay, where did it start? Like, how old were you when you started feeling like you weren't good enough? And what did that version of you need in that moment? What did she need to hear? What did she want someone to do? Did she need a hug? Did she need movement? Like, what did she need? And so a lot of it goes back to just tending to your inner child. And so I do that a lot with my clients. A lot of the things that we do, the patterns, the thoughts, it's our inner child. It all comes from our childhood.
It does stem from our childhood. And I feel like as a healer myself, like I always try to tell my clients, like it's not about telling your parents what they did wrong.
Right.
It's kind of just about accepting the fact that they were human too. Like this is their first
Yes.
time being parents. I mean, you can see a client that has childhood wounds of like neglect or their parents never praising them, and then you have the total other side where these parents are like, I'm not going to be like that because that's how I was treated, so they do the total opposite. And it's really just about accepting. And sometimes it's the parents don't even know they're naturally like doing it. I had a
Yeah.
client once where all the time she was feeling super anxious and she didn't know where it was coming from. And what happened was it was actually started from her mom's womb, like growing her
Mhm.
cell by cell with this anxiety or this like feeling. So you can see that these things will come up, and it's not about blame. It's not about
Right.
shaming yourself or shaming your parents. It's just about acceptance and feeling like, okay, now I know where this has come from. I can accept myself and I can accept what my parents were and I can move on. It really just helps the ego kind of rest so that you can
Yeah.
finally hear your inner thoughts. And what I love how you frame your work is that it's not about fixing anyone, it's creating the space for someone to actually hear themselves, maybe for the first time ever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Wow.
I mean, women, we forget to listen to ourselves because
Yeah.
we're, always trying to provide for other people
Mm-hmm.
and we forget about ourselves.
It's so true. Now, before we keep going here, we talked a little bit about you and your coaching business and what you use and the tools to help women kind of succeed. But I want to give you the open floor here to tell people how to find you and what you have available right now or upcoming.
Talked a little bit about my program. It's a one-on-one coaching program for women in the messy middle. So if you feel like you're outgrowing your life, you don't even know what your next chapter looks like, you just know something is shifting, that is where I come in. And I am really helping women, again, learn to listen to themselves, especially when it comes to like, what do they want? Like, what is true to them? So, learning to listen to themselves. Also, rebuilding the self trust that you don't have to have it all figured out. A lot of women come to me and they're like, I don't know my plan. It's like, I don't want you to have a whole dang plan. Like, I don't want you to have a plan. I want you to trust yourself enough that you will figure it out, that we can take little steps. And that's a huge thing, is taking the courage or getting the courage to take baby steps. I always tell my clients, like, I'm not expecting you to do some like grandiose, actionable step. Like, it's the baby steps that truly matter. And even with the baby steps, sometimes it takes a little more courage. So, building the courage to take those steps and then having the trust that, like, okay, if we take this step and it doesn't go as planned or something, we know how to pivot. We trust ourselves enough to know how to pivot. And so that is what my one-on-one coaching program is all about. It's 3 months. And yeah, I'm so excited to be working specifically with these women in this in-between season, again, because it's just really close to my heart, because I feel like I've just been through it a lot. And it's a season that I feel like no one talks about. Like, I feel like I remember first getting into my first messy middle and I thought I was going crazy. And so a part of having this program is normalizing that it's okay to be questioning your life and questioning who you are. Like, that's normal. It's a part of growth. It's part of your evolution. And so that is the offer that I have, now that I'm like full time into my coaching. And then I'm also going to be getting back into podcasting. I launched a podcast like when I was in news, and then, life lifed and I kind of fell off it, and now I'm relaunching it. And by the time this episode will be out, it will already be launched. So I'll make sure to include those links, yeah, in the show notes.
Amazing. Yes, all of these links will be in the show notes. And if you're in the messy middle right now, if there's something in this conversation sounds like your life, go find Amanda.
Yes.
And so I want to spend some time here at the end, because I think your story answers something a lot of women are too scared to even say out loud. What if I leave the impressive thing? What if I give up on the title and the salary and the status? Who am I on the other side of that? So, who is the Amanda that exists now that couldn't have existed inside that career?
Oh, I love this question. It's a good one. I feel like this Amanda is more honest with herself, and she's not afraid to be honest. She doesn't care anymore if things don't make sense to other people. I think that was something that I struggled with, of, I love sharing my dreams and goals and things I want to do with people, but I also can see their reaction of like, and it's just their projection, their own fears. But I don't care anymore. I'm like, it doesn't need to make sense for you. And this is why I love what you said earlier about just like climbing that mountain and just keep going. Because I really do believe that when you are able to see something, you have an idea, or you feel that purpose in your heart, God, source, whatever higher power you believe in, like, that was placed in your heart for a reason, because a version of you is supposed to experience that. And so it doesn't need to make sense to anyone else, who you are, what you're doing, what your purpose is. It just needs to make sense to you, and you need to believe in it 110% and yourself. As I said, this is probably my favorite version of myself. And I know I still have so much more room to grow, but right now, like, I am obsessed with this version of Amanda.
That's amazing. It's like perfectly imperfect, right? You're here
Yes.
for a higher purpose. Nothing else matters, right? When that, those negative comments or being perceived and those projections of others, you almost get to a point in the messy middle where you honestly do not care what anybody has to say because you're here on a higher purpose. You're almost vibrating at a different frequency where those comments and those negative perceptions, they literally repel off of us. But it
Yeah.
takes a lot of time and a lot of courage to get to that point, right?
Yes, yes. And I think a big thing again was just like, I think everyone needs to redefine success in their life.
That's actually really interesting how you mentioned that because I wanted to ask you, what do you know about success that you genuinely couldn't have known back then?
Oh my gosh. I mean, success to me, and again, it's because of society and, of course, how my parents raised me. Like a successful person, a successful woman, she has the impressive title. She has all the money that she wants for financial freedom and the awards, the recognition, like that, the degrees. I mean, I think education is also very important, but I also just placed, so that's what I looked at as successful. The certifications, like whatever it was. And when I redefined success, I was like, actually, like a successful life, a successful Amanda, like she would have the freedom to work wherever she wants. And that's why a big thing when I was looking for kind of my next chapter of like, okay, yes, I could do full-time entrepreneurship, but if I want the part-time job, I want it to be work from home. I want to be able to work from anywhere. Having joy all throughout my daily life. Like that's what means to me. And of course, like a regulated nervous system. I'm not freaking crying every day anymore because I'm so stressed and I have anxiety. That's what success looks like to me. And success looks like making an impact in my community. Like that's the big thing and which is why I'm like full-time coaching. Like that's my calling. That's my purpose is empowering women.
Love that because yeah, success is defined so differently for so many people, and for the longest time, it's built by these dreams that were kind of placed on us, or like that view, or that external validation, or those credits, or the master's degree, and really, success comes down to one, like making a bigger impact on this world. Like that is such a really big thing that you mentioned there. That's such a successful goal for myself too, is making that community impact, but also freedom, right? Freedom to
Yes.
explore, freedom to forgive yourself, freedom to just be yourself and find joy in different things and like navigate different areas of your life so that you can continue to evolve. That is success,
Yeah, I
right?
love that. And yeah, like you said, everyone's definition is different. And so if your definition doesn't match mine, that's
That's
okay.
okay.
I'm not saying you're not successful. Like I hope you are following your dreams that match your definition of success. That's all, I want for women.
100%. No, exactly. So, for our last question here, what do you want to say to the woman who is looking at her life right now? Looking at your life, for example, the Emmy, the six-figure job, the title, and the things that look right, and quietly wondering if this is actually it for her.
Follow your curiosity. Like if you're curious, if you're already asking questions, that's your body talking to you. So follow that curiosity and ask yourself, okay, why am I questioning this? Why doesn't it feel right even if though it looks good? And also remembering that like just because you're questioning your life and just because, your life looks good. And I'm sure, like for me, it gave me so many opportunities. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, two things can be true. You can be grateful for your current chapter and you can recognize everything that has given you. But at the same time, you can also want more for yourself. Like, it's not bad to want more and to want different. It doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make you dramatic. You're just growing. That's what happens when you evolve as a person, as a woman. You're gonna question things. And so I want you to know it's normal, I think is the biggest thing is be curious and ask yourself why you're feeling that way. Validate yourself that it's normal And then also remember that you can be grateful and you can want more. Two things
Yeah.
are can be very true.
I think, especially for women, they need to remember that you can ask for more, right? There's not just an ending. I think a lot of these things is like, if, let's say, for example, like I was Amanda and I won the Emmy Award, I have this dream job, and you're, typically people be like, that's it for me, that's all I need. But you're in
Mm,
your early 20s and you're like, no, why is this it, right? If you're questioning that, like continue, like you said,
yeah.
continue to go further into it, because we have one life and it's so important to live it to its fullest. Like, I know that's so cliche to say, but why does there need to be an ending? Why do you need to reach this goal and be happy with it? Like,
Yeah.
continue to evolve. Like, if you already reached that goal, make another one, right?
Yes, you're allowed
You're
to. You
allowed
are
to.
allowed to want more and want something different. And yeah, women, we do struggle with that. We see it like, okay, we already reached this goal, and so that's
That's it for
life. And it's
me.
like,
Yep.
no, you can want more from life. And a woman's intuition is just so strong. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know when you are made for more in this life. And so, yeah, be curious. Ask yourself why you feel like that.
I can talk about women's intuition for so long, and I think, like, if anything that they can pull from this conversation is trusting your body and allowing yourself to trust
Yes.
yourself and give yourself that self-love, because you only have one life, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
Amanda, thank you so much for coming on the podcast
Thank
today. Is
you
there
for
any
having
last minute
me.
things you wanted to talk about or
No,
mention?
I feel like
Wonderful.
I loved this conversation. I was like, we could go for more hours. Like,
I
oh
know,
my
for real. I'm
gosh.
like, let's keep going. Like,
I loved it. And again, thank you for having me.
oh, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. All of her links will be in the show notes below, and go check out Amanda. Thank you for watching another episode of Unclocked and Unbothered. I think what Amanda's story shows and what makes it different from so many others is that the credentials, the Emmy, the salary, the title, none of it was enough to override what she already knew. And I think that's the most important thing, because a lot of us are waiting for the external thing to be bad to justify leaving. We're waiting to be miserable enough, struggling enough, failing enough. But Amanda's story says you don't have to be failing to leave. You just have to be honest with yourself. And if you are in the messy middle right now, if your life looks fine from the outside and something on the inside is quietly saying otherwise, I hope this episode gave you a little more language for what you're already feeling. You can find Amanda in the show notes below, and you can find my website or DM me at unclockedwithjenna or harrishaven_, but all the links will be in the show notes. Subscribe so you never miss a Monday drop, and leave a review if this show has given you something. It genuinely helps this show reach more women who need it most. And I'll see you in the next episode. Stay unclocked and unbothered.